Really like that. I could almost burn this thing across the surface. Long casts, grass flats, and a moderate to moderate fast retrieve, and you're in business. It just calls them up. Got him. Oh, that's a good one. That's a big fish. Come on in here. Oh, look at that one. Oh, come here, come here. Look at that one on the iWing 135. Absolutely smashed it. Now, whether this fish thought that was a insect, a dragonfly, or a baby bird, absolutely smoked it. Post-spawn, shallow water, grass flats, crawling it along back there. Burp, 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 burp. Awesome wing style bait, cast it along 2 feet of water on a grass line. She absolutely smoked it. That was one of the coolest bites I've had, all post-spawn long. iWing 135, it's got a knocker in it. So not only does it have the big wings that throws a lot of water, walks across the surface, but it's got an internal rattle, weight rattle in there. And it's like a little flag on a hinge, and that ball just knocks back and forth, knock, 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 knock. It drives these big ones absolutely crazy. That was very cool. Smoked it. That was a nasty bite. Very cool. Very cool. See ya. You know, with the iWing 135, being a whole ounce and 5/8, I need a stout rod to throw it. These big walking style baits and wing style baits, we need to make real long casts along these shallow flats where it works best. Destroyer Mark 48 rod, 7'8". I'm able to make real long casts with it. Again, being an ounce and 5/8, I want to throw it a long ways across these shallow flats. The more that bait is walking and doing the breaststroke and throwing water and knocking across the surface, the better off I am. It just basically, all these big shallow fish may be feeding on bluegill, dragonflies, sometimes baby birds. And when that thing's swimming across the surface, I want to draw as many big fish to it as possible. So making those long casts with that longer Mark 48 is absolutely key. 25-pound test monofilament. Love a monofilament when I'm throwing topwater, especially a walking style winged bait. Basically, these bites are vicious. So I want a little bit of stretch in the line I'm using. And when that fish comes up, you know, it's a big piece of meat. So I want a nice monofilament that stretches, it pulls it under, and you land every single one of those big fish. Mark 48, 25-pound test monofilament, long casts, and hold on. You know, I'm throwing an oversized reel, like a 300 size bass reel, and it's got like a 6:3 to 1 gear ratio. So that's about a medium fast gear ratio. And I'm bringing this bait. I mean, I'm bringing it across that grass flat right there, and it's staying true. It's not blowing out. The wings just keep moving, you know, through the grass here. I mean, that's a fairly fast retrieve. And of course, you could slow it down and walk it real slow if it's real calm and slick. But I'm really liking this, just kind of medium retrieve, medium fast retrieve. Throwing a lot of water. I could hear it bloop, 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 bloop. I could hear that weight system, that flag in there, just kind of knocking the sides. If I come up on a little patch like that, I'll just pop it out nice and smooth, and it looks like a baby bird, or it looks like a, you know, just a dragonfly or an insect. If you think about a bass, its whole life, even from a little fingerling stage, a bass eats insects off the surface. You know, when you think about big swim baits and things like that, they don't start eating bigger, larger than normal bait fish until they're 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. But from the start, from the hatch, bass eat winged insects off the surface. So this is just a bigger version of that. So you know that you're matching the hatch whatever fishery you go to, there are insects on the surface and there are birds on the surface. And that's what we're imitating with this beautiful little iWing 135 here. You know, when you got a slight ripple on the water, sometimes it'll hinder your bait selection. Birds, you know, there's only a handful of baits that'll work in this shallow water when there's a fairly large ripple on the water, and the iWing 135 is definitely one of them. So when you've got an inch or inch and a half of chop on the water, those wings do a good job at disturbing that and calling those big fish in. You know, what do you look for when you're throwing a winged topwater bait? You want to look for shallow grass flats, and the post spawn is where it works really good. From post spawn all the way through late fall, shallow grass flats is what we look for, but it especially works well right after the post spawn. And you know, after the bass spawn, that's when birds like to nest. Through May and June, you see a lot of nests. So what you look for is shallow flats. If there's grass there, great. But if you find one single tree that a bird could nest in, or a single patch of reeds that these blackbirds nest in, that's where you want to throw it, because these bass underneath those single trees know that dragonflies, you know, hang out around these solid single trees. When you throw that winged topwater bait through there, those fish pay extra close attention to those single isolated trees. You know, I fish a lot of shallow, big fish fisheries, fishing the tour, and from California to Florida, you know, we fish a lot of lakes that receive a lot of fishing pressure. A stretch like this will receive a ton of pressure from buzzbaits and swim jigs and, you know, poppers and frogs and, you know, the usual. But when you show them something different like this I-Wing 135, already you're ahead of the guy that fished in front of you or the guy that's fishing behind you. I always love showing them something different. And this I-Wing 135 does just that. It's an oversized wing style bait, and it's got a sound and a plop and a profile that's just different from anything these fish are used to seeing. So when I pick up this bait and cover a lot of water with it, I'm being effective, not only because I'm making the right cast, but because it's something they haven't really seen, and they don't see a lot of these wing style baits, and it's got that nice little rattle and knock to it that drives those big ones nuts.